The problem was Valerie Peters was trapped inside her car when Captain Heiser arrived with his three-man crew.
You know, it's really hard to look at that person and say, well, you know, she's hurt real bad, but what can I do for her by myself? There's nothing I can do.
On top of that, there was another problem. Just a few feet away from the mangled wreck, propane gas was leaking from a tanker.
I knew we were going to need extra help, and the propane tank, in my mind, was what finalized it, that we needed everybody.
As help arrived, rescuers used fans to blow away the leaking propane, then began lifting the semi and tearing apart the crushed car piece by piece. Meanwhile, Captain Heiser tried to talk Valerie Peters through the process.
You couldn't carry on a conversation with her. I don't know, I think it might have been because she was in so much pain that she couldn't deal with it.
Tell us a little bit about the day of the accident. And I know that you were on your way back down from Flagstaff back down to Phoenix, Arizona. Or were you going up?
No, I lived in Flagstaff.
Oh, okay. So you were just on I-40 on
I worked that day.
Okay.
And I don't remember. I'll just tell you the things I do remember.
Okay.
I remember I picked my daughter up from work, and then I was on the freeway. Mm-hmm. I don't remember a whole lot, but what I do remember, I remember being trapped in the truck. Mm-hmm. And I remember the fireman talking to me.
And what did he say?
He was just telling me, Valerie, hang in here, we're going to get you out of here. Mm-hmm. Then I hear the background, I hear the other firefighters going, well, how are we going to get her out of here? And so that kind of threw me into a panic, because I was pinned and I started pushing, you know, thinking I was going to break through.
And but you were in the seatbelt, but you were pinned underneath the semi truck at that time, underneath the roof of the car that had come down on you. Is that right? So you remember being trapped. You remember the feeling of being trapped.
Right. And then I just remember going in and out of consciousness. Mm-hmm.
And what would happen when you would go in and out? Do you remember like when you would go out of consciousness? Do you think your spirit was actually trying to leave your body at that time, or did you just not remember anything?
Well, I remember that when I would pass out, I saw myself like in a holding room.
Okay.
I was just sitting there.
Okay.
In a peaceful state.
Okay.
And then when I would come back, wake up or whatever, I would
feel the pain.
I would cry out, and I remember saying, "Jesus, help me!" But I knew I was dying. I could feel I was getting weaker. The fireman he would start yelling at me whenever I'd get quiet and say, "Stay with me, Valerie, stay with me." And I wanted to kind of panic, but then he would talk me through. Mm-hmm. And then, but before I knew it, I was, I go in and out. But once I did cross over, then there was no more pain at all.
Wow.
It felt really good. And then I turned around, and there was Jesus.
Oh.
And
what did he look like?
He looked like a big ball of light.
A big ball of light?
Yeah, he was just, he glowed, and
you knew it was Jesus?
I knew I knew it. Mm-hmm. I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. And I ran up to him, and he was just smiling at me.
Oh.
And I started touching his face, and I was going, it's you, it's you. And he just smiled at me, and he enjoyed me. He enjoyed me, just touching him, and it felt, the atmosphere I was in, there was so much peace. There was so much love. The word love is such a little word compared to who he is. Mm-hmm. I heard, his body is like it hums like with power, like a power plant. That's the only way I can describe it. And so I could hear the power that he was walking in. I mean, his body just hums with power. And there was a passion in his eyes, and it was for me. This is how he feels about his creation, not just Christians. You know, it's those that he has created.
Yes.
He is in love with them. And I didn't realize that because I didn't love myself.
The next place that Jesus took you was restoration.
Right. And I always...
Now, this is an actual place in heaven.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the way I kind of describe it is like Disneyland. The happiest place on earth. But because when you go into the gates of Disneyland, you see all the different signs to Frontierland or Fantasyland or, you know.
Right.
But I walked into the gates of restoration.
Wow.
And I know he was doing things within my spirit and in my heart, things that had gone wrong here on the earth, or, you know, restoring or healing things where I had hurts, or ways that maybe I didn't perceive rightly. And he was just touching me. And there were a lot of people there. And I camped there for a while. And then one of the next memories that I had was where he took me high. I call it the mountain of the Lord. And I was like on the top of this snow-capped mountain. And I was with Father. And I could hear his voice, and his voice is just like thunder. It would like a booming kind of sound, but there was so much peace when he spoke. I knew what he was saying in the thunder, and he was speaking blessings over the heavens and the earth. And then I looked around the top of the mountain, and I saw all 4 seasons going on at the same time.
So, okay, so you saw all the seasons, and then you were up with Father, and you went into the throne room.
I did. That was
It was another
memory that I had, where he took me to the throne room, because I didn't think that I saw angels or people or anything. The way I describe it is when I remember my grandmother's old camera, the big ones that you held it down here.
Yeah, right.
And they had the big flash, and it blinds you. And that's what it was. I was blinded by the light, but then all of a sudden things started coming into focus. And that's when I started seeing people and places. And he did take me to the throne room, and I saw.
What was that like?
That was very loud, and that was where the angels are crying out, "Holy, holy, holy!" And there was the smoke, you know, of his presence, and there was. I saw the rainbow, and I saw the thing I was really interested in. I was interested in one angel in particular. He was on his, not really, he was kind of crouched over, and I saw, because I was thinking that when you get to heaven, you would know
what everything
everything
was, but you don't necessarily.
What I picked up on, I mean, he was created to worship God. That was his assignment. And he was not aware of me. He was so in awe of his revelation of who God was that he was kind of on his, not really on his face, but he was blown away what he saw, and the atmosphere that he himself was in, because you know so many people do have angels on a pedestal or whatever, but we're just a fellow servant like he was, and that really spoke to me. I know that the colors there are very different. I should have brought my bow that I carry with me, because it's kind of, you can see through it. It's kind of like an iridescent color, but that all the different colors kind of weave in and out of themselves. And so the blues are more intense, but yet they're pure and they're clear. The streets of gold, there's you can see through the colors. My grandfather was there with me, which was kind of, and he always laughed. His name was Isaac.
Laughter.
Laughter. And he was laughing. And he was enjoying me, because I couldn't take my eyes off the Lord. And so he was laughing with me. My great niece, who was not born yet, was there.
As Jesus is calling you back and asking you if, you know, are you willing? Do you want to come back?
Well, he said that I could stay if I wanted to, but my purpose wasn't done yet. And so I said, well, if I can stay, I'm staying. But he kept talking to me. And he said, I really need you to come back, but you can stay if you want. And I said, well, I'm going to stay with you. But he kept talking to me. So I said, you know, Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I would rather be with you. Please let me stay with you. You know, please let me stay with you. But he can talk you into anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I said yes.
And then what happened?
Well, then I'm totally with them, and then I hit like this middle ground, and then I hit the earth. I was in my body, and it was like, ugh. And I mean, I felt all the pain. I knew I was back. I felt the pain. I felt I could feel. It was like it felt like I could totally feel. I could feel the Lord, but it had gone through like a straining process. Like it was, I could feel the earthly realm. There was a difference, yet he was totally with me. But when the first thing I heard him say was, "This is my beloved bride," and I was like, "Oh God, she's a mess." I said, "She can't see. She can't." I had no neurological function whatsoever. I mean, I was drooling. I mean, I couldn't hold my head up. I was so sick. I really walked through that after I came back and had to start working on learning to walk again, to think again, to focus. My brain, I mean, they said I would be a vegetable. I wouldn't be able to do anything for myself. But God. And so I saw my progress. They said I would be at least a year, and I walked out in 2 months. I was determined to walk out.
Wow.
So Father, I just thank you for the opportunity to share about you, Father, and who's ever out there, Father, I just ask that you would touch them, Father, from the very depths of their being, Father God, and that you, Father, would just go in. And we just speak life over them, Father. And I know, Father, that nothing is too hard for you.
Yes.
I know that nothing is impossible with you, Father God. And so I just ask, Father, for a manifestation, Father, of your unconditional love, Father God. That the people would know, Father, that you don't see their sin, Father God.
you just see them, Father,